Tech Table. Tech Table. Tech Table.
Hello and welcome to the Tech Table, the Technical Staff and Theatre Workers podcast. It's the podcast in which I talk to people who work in the technical side of the industry about how they got in, their experiences and any advice they can give to anyone getting in. This is episode 8 of season 5. Loving the season so far. I hope you're enjoying it too. The downloads have been brilliant and we're getting a lot more people on social media, so that's fantastic. If you want to get in touch with us on social media, it's Tech Table Pod on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, Threads and YouTube. And if you want to get in touch via the email, it is techtablepod@gmail.com. Thank you so much to those people who have downloaded the show and who have started following us on social media. Long may that continue. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell anyone who is interested in theatre that you know, and anyone who's not interested in theatre, because it might make them interested in theatre. So, without further ado, let's see who is at the Tech Table with me today. I'm here with my guest at this time. If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell me what your previous job titles have been.
My real name is Nick Bromley, and my alias careers, as it were. I started off as an ASM and rose to the dizzy heights of company managing, and still doing it up until last year, 2 years ago. But at the same time, I've branched out now, and I write and I direct.
Excellent.
So there.
Oh, so just a couple of jobs then in the theatre.
Just a couple of jobs.
Okay. Here's a good question for you. How did you get into theatre?
Well, without disclosing the age and having you drop your microphone, I got into the theatre through going to Central School of Speech and Drama. Now, it's so long ago, it hadn't become royal. So it was just the Central School of Speech and Drama.
I thought you were going to say it's so long ago it wasn't even central.
It wasn't. It was slightly irregular. We had Gwyneth Thurburn, who was the principal. She had a gammy leg, charming lady, but she was anyway. But she was renowned, and they'd had a split that year. Yat, you wouldn't remember? No. Neither can I, actually. But he went off. He took half the third. It was 3-year course for the actors.
Yeah,
3-year course, and he took the majority of the third year to start the London Drama School Centre.
Okay,
and so it was quite a fraught time for Central, because suddenly they'd lost at least half of their students in the final year, and but I joined it to do a 2-year course on by stage management, a stage management course, with a very good principal of the stage management course was called Peter Strawley. And he had a very good team of professionals who would come in and teach us the various aspects. So we covered, the first year was really, it was a 2-year course. So the first year was practical, quite a little bit of the history of theatre and things like that. But it was really practical experience. So we all had a go in the first year of helping out on the last year's final productions.
Ah, right, okay.
And so you did props 1 week, wardrobe, and having destroyed the props and ruined all the frocks, you were then just
told to be stage management.
Look
after the people. What, if you can remember, was your first paid job in theatre?
My first paid job in theatre was an extra. But that doesn't count.
Backstage in theatre.
Backstage. That was the beauty of it was in those days that there were only about 10 drama schools, as far as we could tell, which were actually of any nationally known. There was Bristol Old Vic, of course.
Yeah.
There was Weber Douglas. there was Lambda, Rada, and Central, and a few more. There might have been Italia Conti,
Right.
I think, but they were the main ones. So if you were lucky enough to get into them, and when I say lucky, you actually applied, because in those days you could apply, and there just wasn't the amount of people wanting to get into a backstage career.
Well, I'm sure people didn't really know it was a thing.
No, or they were very wise and decided not to.
Yes. Yeah.
But this is not.
So
Maybe I shouldn't be saying that.
back to my original question.
Yes.
What was your first paid job?
Oh yes, back to. Well, it's me desperately trying to remember. No, one side. Well, I got a bit of paper saying I hadn't been expelled.
Right.
Because it was 2 year. Of course, they did drop half our class at the end of the first year.
Wow.
Saying unsuitable for backstage work. So my first paid job got there at last.
Well done.
Was at Malvern.
Malvern Theatres.
The Malvern Festival Theatre, and it was the first Malvern Festival since the war. Because before the war, it had been every year there'd been the Malvern Festival.
Right.
And it was where some of the later plays of Bernard Shaw and some of the more contemporary plays of J.B. Priestley was staged.
Yeah.
And it was sort of founded, I believe, by Barry Jackson out of Birmingham. So it came
south,
which is close, as it were, up into the hills. Yes. So that's where I was.
Excellent.
And it was started, and it was a repertoire season. So we did, I think, 5 plays in a summer, during the summer.
Can you remember what they were?
Yes, I think I can. I think we had Mr. Kettle. Sorry, not Mr. Kettle.
Mr. Kettle, right?
Or was it Mr. Cackle? No, Mr. Kettle.
Mr. Kettle.
As in, put the kettle on Polly.
Yeah.
Yes, if that. No one would know that. And Mrs. Moon,
Right.
which was a rather weak comedy by J.B. Priestley.
Right.
Then we had the next one was an Inspector Calls.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Yes. We also did a Graham Greene play called, now what was it called? Was it The Living Room? I'd have to look that one up. But the last one, which was the best one, really, was Bernard Shaw, and now I'm scrambling for the title. Hang on. Oh, God.
Well, you think about it. We'll come back to it.
Oh, come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. Okay.
It was a Bernard Shaw.
Right, a Bernard Shaw. Okay.
But it wasn't, it wasn't St. Joan.
Yeah. So when you said you can remember all 5 plays, you can remember 2 of them.
I think so. Yes.
That's all right. That's good.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest.
That's really good. So in your vast career,
You never can tell.
Oh, there you go. You see,
You
well
never
done.
can tell.
Actually, before I ask that question, give us a brief synopsis of
You never
some
can
of
tell.
the other shows that you've done
Well,
in your grand career.
after
Not all of them, because we haven't got all day.
Oh, all right. Well, the first My Fair Lady tour coming out of Drury Lane.
Yeah.
I did that immediately after Malvern. Then, after about a year and a quarter on that, going around the country, I got a job in the West End, my first West End job as an ASM, on The Rivals at the Haymarket Theatre, which was a wonderful, wonderful start to a career which has gone downhill ever since. Working with Sir Ralph Richardson,
Right.
and Dame Margaret Rutherford. So it was quite a wonderful cast. Daniel Massey. It was a fab. Angela Fawn. You name them.
Yes.
They were in it.
Good. Any more?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. Then I did a very nice show with a play called Cactus Flower, which they turned into a film.
They did, which I believe Goldie Hawn won an Oscar for.
Right. That's right, with Walter Matthau.
Yeah.
And this was with Tony Britton and Margaret Leighton.
Lovely.
So they were, and Tony, of course, had been in Fair Lady with me, so that was lovely. Work with them again, and that was very lovely. It was a comedy by Abe Burrows, who was a very, very clever American director and writer. And his son, of course, Jim Burrows, was the creator of Cheers.
Oh, right, okay.
And also, I believe, Frasier. I think he had something to do with Frasier as well.
Yeah, that wouldn't have surprised me.
Yeah. So that's for the contemporary audience, listening audience.
Excellent.
Cheers.
So what then?
Oh, after that,
what then got you into? Because I worked with you 15 years ago.
Well, what happened was in those days, and I'm talking now of the late of the 60s, 1960s. We had professional ASMs who were in their 60s. You know, that was you became an ASM, you stayed an ASM. Company managers were 110. You know. DSMs were you had to be you know of a certain build, be able to knit and sitting in the corner for a long time because the shows were much longer then. You had to sit down and you know take it easy really.
And I suppose going back to those days, was it still
just difficult to advance?
Yeah, was that also there was the equity card, or was that had that not been introduced? It was a pre-equity card.
It was you had to have an equity card.
You had to have an equity card
in the West End.
So you had to have had a certain amount
of time out in
provincial and touring.
What they called rather grandly provincial theatre, which could be rep, it could be a tour, theatre and education. Occasionally, there wasn't much of it there.
So you couldn't just come straight out of college and get straight into the West End.
It was impossible.
Yeah. So
it was impossible, and so in a way, I mean, it was. Some people would say it was unfair because you know we couldn't get a job because by that time the repertory system was declining rapidly. So a repertory company, say you were at let's say Birmingham, they could offer every year, every season, they would offer equity cards, positions which gave you an equity card to stage management and to actors. So that's how you got your first job.
Right,
they had vacancies, as it were. And if you'd gone to an accredited drama school, you were pretty sure of a first job.
Yeah.
It might be your last job if you know.
But you at least got one.
If you were as incompetent as I was. but you could.
I think you did all right.
No. Well, I did a few terrible things. Anyway.
So, going back to it, so when did you start getting into the big musicals?
Oh, well, that was after skipping a decade. To get away from just being an ASM, I moved up to, I got a job in Africa.
Right. And
as a stage manager, I bluffed my way into that.
Which part of Africa?
South Africa. And for a company called Tureen and Rubin, who Peter Tureen's still going. And they toured all around the country because there was no television in South Africa.
Yeah.
So, and they had a lot of successes going around. So I stayed there for 2 years, made a lot of mistakes, but learnt a lot, and then came back and very luckily, just before I'd gone, I'd worked on a revival of The Boyfriend,
right?
Which was with Tony Adams from Crossroads. Remember?
Yes,
Tony Adams.
Remember Tony Adams.
Still
Crossroads.
And it had been put on by a producer called Michael Codron. And when I got back, Michael's office, I contacted them, said, I'm back, any jobs going? And they said, yes, would you like to company manage? And I got a job, that was my first company management job, was a play in London.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that was the first, and that lasted for 10 years. And then I took a couple of years out doing conferences, and then decided to come back in. I didn't really enjoy them.
Yeah.
They were just creative. I missed the content.
Yeah.
You know, the experience was good, but the content wasn't there. So I came back, and the first musical I did after that was I started off my musical theatre side of my career with Pirates of Penzance at the Tory Lane.
Okay.
Way back in 81.
Wow.
81.
Long time ago.
A long time ago.
Excellent. So in your vast career, have you ever come across any issues, anybody you feel have held you back or not allowed you to, apply for jobs, get for jobs that you really wanted, or have you...
Yes, I mean, the competition was getting fiercer all the time, and also... Oh, sorry. I'm talking... I suppose, yes. I mean, you go out for interviews and you don't get the job. That was going on.
Did you ever feel it was personal?
Deeply. No,
Deeply,
I didn't. No. It was really for... most producers can tell if someone's right. They know what the show is. They know who they've employed as actors.
Yeah.
And, of course, being a company manager, the vast part of your job is looking after people rather than machines.
Yes.
So it's a lot of HR.
Right, yeah.
HR to the job, I think.
Yeah.
So you've got to know that. But you do know, but what I find is that nowadays it's becoming more and more an administrative job, and the company manager used to be quite autonomous.
Right.
In my early days, when I did, for example, Starlight Express, we were in Victoria, so that was about. It was like being in Calais. Really.
Yeah.
When it came to getting into the West End, you sort of fly. You'd sneak away from Victoria to cross into the West End. Which was heaven.
Under the cover of midnight.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
heaven. Yes, in disguise, deeply in disguise. Jump on a roller skate and get there quickly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Have you? What would you say are the pros and cons of working in the theatre industry?
Well, the cons are you meet some of the nicest people in the world.
That's the cons, is it?
That's if you're a nasty person.
Yeah, of
yes.
course, yeah.
So you can be... But if you are a nasty person, the plus is you can be really nasty to them.
Yes, fair enough.
And they don't usually bite back.
Yeah.
But no, the pros are the people you work with.
Yeah.
And I've been very lucky. I've had a few, fallings out over the years, but the vast majority of people I've worked with have been professional and as hard-working as myself.
Oh, yes. Try and keep a straight face on that one, Nick. Excellent. Finally, what advice could you give to anybody who's trying to get into the industry now?
If you really want to get into it, you must understand that it's precarious. It's a precarious business. Jobs are for the run of a show, usually, unless you join a large organisation like the National or the RSC or one of those. But those are a few jobs. There are few and far between. So you mustn't be frightened of being unemployed suddenly.
Yeah.
Like two weeks notice. 2 weeks notice. And that so the plus is once you understand that and accept that, the fear of being out of work recedes.
Yeah.
And you can take it. You can take it on the chin.
Excellent.
But the other thing is if you can develop a skill,
right?
Be it shoplifting, be it something. I mean,
I knew there was a joke coming somewhere.
But you need a skill. A skill always helps.
Yeah.
Always helps. Could be a foreign language. It could be. These days computers.
Yes.
But except the only trouble is these days with computers, everyone knows how to work them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really being ahead of a game and finding something which people don't know much about.
Which these days could be interpersonal skills and talking to people.
It could be. It could be.
A lot of people don't know a lot about that these days, I feel.
So is that any help?
That's perfect, yes.
But, the thing is, if you really are keen, don't give up. Don't expect to get rich and famous.
Yeah.
In
certainly
the business,
not backstage.
On backstage. But you will have a long career if you get on with people and are prepared to muck in and not sit back and watch others work.
Yeah.
It's teamwork.
Yes.
And I know a song about that, but I won't sing it.
Shall we not? And that's everything. So thank you so much for joining me, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you. A huge thank you to Nick for talking to me there. Really loved talking to Nick. What a fascinating gentleman. Really loves his theatre history, and I really enjoyed talking to him there. Nick has some books out if you are interested. He has a book called Theatre Law, which goes through a lot of all the theatre sayings and speech and explains what they are. He has a book called Stage Ghosts and Haunted Theatres, which is about stage ghosts and haunted theatres. A very interesting read, that one. And his new book is called Cakes and Ale, Mr. Robert Baddeley and his 12th Night Cakes, which is a very interesting story about a gentleman and the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. I'd advise you to go and read these books because they are brilliant reads. You should be able to find them at all good bookshops, and if they don't have them, ask them why they've not got them and get them in. But yes, I really enjoyed talking to Nick. He's a fascinating guy, and brilliant books. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you want to get in touch, it's Tech Table Pod on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, Threads, and YouTube. If you want to get in touch via the emails, it is techtablepod@gmail.com. So give us a follow on social media. Thank you also to my executive producers, Megan G from the GSA and also Jade from Sadler's Wells East. Really happy to have you all aboard. Jade is and Meg, between them, are getting really into the social media side, which is why we're getting a lot more posts. So thank you to them. Thank you to Stage Electrics for this fantastic mic that makes me sound great. And yes, so thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the downloads. And until then, I shall see you all next week.